I never thought I'd be the guy standing here, feeling like a complete idiot, but when I look back now, it all makes sense in a twisted way. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 8 years. We had what most people would call a decent life: 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, decent jobs. I'd always thought we were solid, especially considering the rough patches we went through. But lately, I'd started noticing things that didn't add up. Little stuff at first. Her phone buzzing at odd hours, always texting someone and quickly hiding the screen when I came close. Then she started acting irritable, snapping at me over nothing, rolling her eyes when I'd ask about her day. I chalked it up to stress, work, the kids, life in general. But deep down, I knew something was off. Honestly, I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself she was just tired, maybe having an affair with her boss or some guy at her gym. I didn't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but the feeling gnawed at me. One night, I decided to do something I regret now, an act of desperation. Maybe I followed her when she said she was going out with friends. She had this way of acting innocent, but I noticed her delaying her departure and changing her clothes multiple times. I'd had enough of the gut feeling, so I snuck out behind her, keeping a safe distance in my car. That's when I spotted her getting into a car I recognized immediately: Dr. Carter's. Yeah, our family doctor. The same guy who's been treating us for years. The one we trusted. I saw her kiss him goodbye on the lips and my stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. My wife Lisa with the guy who's supposed to be healing us, helping us stay healthy. It's like some awful bad joke. I watched from a distance as they went into some motel on the outskirts of town, way past midnight, with no sign of their plans being just a friendly checkup. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything was screaming at me that this was something more. The secret meetings, the sneaking around, they weren't just innocent doctor visits or casual encounters. Somewhere along the way, I guess I'd known deep down, but seeing it with my own eyes made it real. I remember feeling so numb, like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind raced, trying to remember every little sign I missed, every odd moment I brushed off. It was like my whole world shifted in that second. The trust I had in Lisa, in our marriage, shattered beyond repair. I wasn't even angry. I was just stunned in disbelief that the woman I loved, the one who'd sworn to stand by me, had been unfaithful with someone I'd trusted, someone I thought was there to help us, not betray us like this. I sat in my car for a good 20 minutes watching that motel, wondering how I missed all the signs, how I let myself be blind to what was right in front of me. And I knew then, I had to find out more. This wasn't going to end with just a glance or a gut feeling. I needed answers, and I was going to get them no matter what. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying what I had seen: Lisa sneaking out, her lips pressed against Dr. Carter, the way her face looked so guilty yet oddly defiant. It was like I had uncovered a secret I wasn't supposed to know, and now I was stuck in this limbo of betrayal. I needed to know just how deep this went. I started obsessively reviewing every little detail about her schedule, her habits, trying to find more clues. But the truth was, I already knew she was cheating. The evidence was right there, staring at me. I just hadn't wanted to accept it. The next day, I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I had to confront her. I waited until she came home from work, trying to keep my composure. When she finally stepped through the door, I could see the flicker of annoyance in her eyes, like she knew I was up to something. I didn't waste time beating around the bush. I told her what I saw, how I'd followed her, how I knew about her secret meetings with Dr. Carter. Her response was instant, defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. She rolled her eyes and said I was imagining things, that I was paranoid, that it was just a mistake or a misunderstanding. She called me crazy for even suggesting it, as if her own infidelity was some kind of joke. I pressed her harder, asking her to explain the late nights and her strange behavior. That's when she started with the typical bullshit, saying it was just about her health, that she'd been feeling anxious and going to see her doctor for stress relief, and that I was overreacting. She even had the gall to tell me, maybe if you paid more attention, you'd see I was just trying to get help, not cheat on you. Yeah, right. I could see right through her lies. I knew she was trying to spin it to cover her ass, but the truth was out there. She had been screwing around behind my back with the guy I trusted the most in this world. The anger inside me was boiling now. I'd been hurt before, sure, but this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the violation of everything I believed in: marriage, trust, loyalty. How could she do this? How could she so easily lie and manipulate? It felt like my entire life had been a lie. I looked at her, and for the first time I saw her as someone I didn't recognize anymore, more like a stranger wearing her face. I wanted to scream, to yell, to make her see how much she'd broken me, but I held it in, trying to stay calm, knowing that if I lost control, I'd only make things worse. She kept denying, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying and ruining everything. Her words cut deeper than I expected, like she was justifying her actions, making me feel like I was the one at fault. She told me, maybe you're the one who's been cheating in your head all these years, and that stung worse than anything else she said. It was like she was trying to turn the tables, make me doubt myself. I felt my fists clenching. I wanted to punch her, but instead I just told her she needed to leave. I couldn't be around her right now, not after what I knew, not after what she did. That night I stayed up late, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something darker, an intense need for justice. I couldn't just walk away from this. I had to do something. I started thinking about how to catch her in the act, how to prove what I already knew without a shadow of a doubt. I realized I needed to get more concrete evidence, something irrefutable. I wanted her to face the truth, not just my suspicions. The betrayal had cut so deep that I couldn't trust her at all anymore. Everything she'd said, every lie, only made it worse. I was in this for the long haul now, and I was planning my next move. I knew I had to be smart, calculated, because if I didn't, she'd just spin her web tighter and make me look like the crazy one. And that's when I decided I was going to find out just how far her lies went. I didn't trust her anymore, and I sure as hell didn't want to live in this kind of betrayal. I wanted the truth, plain and simple, and I was going to get it, no matter what it took. Over the next few days, I kept my eyes open. I couldn't afford to miss a single thing. I started laying out a plan, something sneaky but effective. I knew Lisa was hiding something, and I needed more proof, undeniable evidence that she was cheating with Dr. Carter. So I began by installing a few discreet cameras in the house, mainly where I suspected she'd be alone: her bedroom, her study. I wanted her to slip up, to show her hand without her realizing it. I didn't want to catch her in a moment of passion. I wanted her to slip up, to be careless. I also kept close tabs on her phone, checking messages and calls, but she was pretty good at covering her tracks. Still, I figured if I kept watching, something would happen. One afternoon, I was scrolling through some security footage from the previous night. I had to do it quietly, not let her catch on. I kept telling myself I was doing this for clarity, for peace of mind, but honestly it was more about revenge. I needed to see her lie, to catch her in the act, and then I'd confront her with everything. As I watched the footage, I saw her sneaking out of the house late at night again, but this time I also saw her walking into Dr. Carter's office. The clip was grainy but clear enough to see her go inside. What made my stomach turn was the way she was acting, like she owned the place, like she had a right to be there. It was the confirmation I needed. Then came the real shocker. The footage from the doctor's office camera, which I had access to because I knew his office security system was connected to the same network. I found clips of them both in the exam room, not for a checkup, I was sure of that. They were in there for a long time, more than a normal appointment. I saw them exchanging kisses, her hand on his leg, their bodies pressed close. The worst part, the footage was from just a few days ago. I couldn't believe it. My wife was screwing my doctor, the man who was supposed to heal us, the man I trusted with my family's health. I couldn't fully process that scene at first. My mind went blank, then flooded with rage and disgust. This wasn't just an affair anymore. It was a violation of everything sacred. Medical ethics had been completely violated, and I wondered how many other patients had been put at risk by their relationship. I felt betrayed on a level I had never experienced before. How could she live with herself, lying to me all this time? I had to sit down, breathe deep, and try to make sense of what I saw. The woman I loved, the one I shared my life with, was sleeping with the man who was supposed to keep us healthy. It was like some sick, twisted nightmare. I kept watching the footage, trying to find more clues, more evidence. That's when I saw her leaving the office looking guilty, hurried, like she was afraid of getting caught. That's when it hit me. I had enough. I had everything I needed. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was proof. I felt the blood rush to my head. I wanted to confront her right then and there, to tear her apart with words, but I knew I needed to stay calm. I had to plan my next move carefully. I had to be strategic. This wasn't just about catching her cheating anymore. It was about exposing her lies and deciding what kind of man I was going to be from this moment forward. That night I sat in our living room, staring at the screen, knowing my life had changed forever. I was furious, betrayed, and utterly broken inside. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd uncovered a secret that could finally set me free. Whatever happened next, I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I had the proof, and I was ready to face whatever came. The question was, how would she respond? Would she continue to lie, or would she finally admit what she'd done? I didn't have those answers yet, but I knew I was done being the fool who trusted blindly. Now I was going to be the man who finally took control. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa sneaking out, her lips pressed against Dr. Carter's, her face filled with guilty pleasure. Knowing what I knew, I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to make a move. But I also knew I needed to be careful. This wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about how I was going to confront her, how I was going to do it without completely losing my mind. I decided I'd wait until morning, give myself some time to think, plan my approach. But inside, I was already boiling over with anger, heartbreak, and a sense of betrayal I couldn't put into words. The next day, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat on the porch staring at the sky. I wanted to keep it together, to be rational. I knew I had all the evidence I needed. I'd spent the night reviewing the footage again and again, trying to prepare myself. My hands were trembling as I went through the clips, pausing on certain frames, memorizing the details. I knew I couldn't just blurt everything out. She'd deny, lie, or maybe even turn the tables on me. I needed to be cold, calculated, ready for whatever response she threw my way. When she finally came into the kitchen, I could see the defensive glint in her eyes. She was pretending to be innocent, acting like I was overreacting, like I was imagining things again. I decided to go straight for the kill. I pulled out my phone and played the video footage on the big screen, pointing at the screen and at her. "This is you," I said, voice steady, but my stomach was twisting. "This is you leaving Dr. Carter's office after spending who knows how long in there. Tell me I'm wrong." Her face went pale. For a second she opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She started with the usual bullshit, more lies, deflections, trying to make me doubt what I saw. She told me it was just a fling, that it was nothing serious, that I was overreacting. She even had the nerve to say, "You're just jealous because I don't want to sleep with you anymore." I looked at her, disgusted. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her see how much she'd hurt me. Instead, I kept my voice calm but cold. "Don't bullshit me, Lisa. I know everything." She glared at me, her bitchy side coming out. "You've always been so insecure," she snapped. "Maybe I just needed someone to talk to, someone who actually listens. Maybe Dr. Carter's the only decent person I can trust." That was her go-to: lie, deny, spin it to make herself the victim, but I'd had enough. Her lies only made things worse. I told her to pack her shit and leave. I couldn't stand to be around her anymore, not after what I'd seen, what I knew. She burst into tears, protesting, saying I was overreacting, that it was all just a big misunderstanding. But I didn't believe her. The proof was right there, flashing on the screen. I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. Relief because I finally had answers, a clear, undeniable picture of her betrayal. Devastation because the woman I loved had been lying to my face for months, maybe years. I sat there staring at her as she cried and begged, feeling hollow inside. My trust was gone, shredded into tiny pieces I didn't know how to put back together. I knew she was going to leave, and honestly, I didn't stop her. Deep down, part of me wanted her to go, to finally free myself from this torment. But another part, the one that still loved her, was shattered beyond repair. That's when I realized I had to start thinking about what came next. Did I want to fight for this marriage or just walk away? The answer was clearer than ever. I was done. Done with the lies, the betrayal, the fake smiles, and the hollow promises. I'd spent so long trying to be the good husband, the forgiving one, but enough was enough. I wasn't going to be played anymore. I'd take whatever time I needed to heal, to figure out my next steps. She was leaving, I knew that now. And honestly, a small part of me felt relief mixed with heartbreak. I just hoped that someday I could find a way to forgive myself for trusting her in the first place. After Lisa left that morning, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. Part of me wanted to chase her, scream at her to stay, to make her see how much she'd destroyed. But another part, the tired, battered part, knew that wasn't going to fix anything. The truth was, I'd been blind for too long, and now I was faced with the brutal reality that my marriage was over. I spent the next few days in a fog, oscillating between anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. I told myself I'd be okay, that I'd move on, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of a long, painful process. In the meantime, I worked on gathering myself, figuring out how to handle the fallout. I decided I needed to confront Dr. Carter, the man who had been betraying us in the most personal way possible. I couldn't let this go without some kind of response. I found his number in my phone, hesitated for a second, then dialed. When he answered, I was calm but firm. I told him I knew everything, that I had seen the footage, and that he'd crossed a line no doctor should ever cross. I warned him that if I found out he was messing with anyone else in my family, I wouldn't be so polite next time. I didn't make any threats, but I think he got the message. That confrontation gave me a strange sense of closure, but it also made me more determined. If my wife was willing to sleep with our doctor, the man who was supposed to heal us, then I needed to make sure she paid for her betrayal. I couldn't just let her walk away and pretend like nothing happened. I started doing some digging into her finances, her social media, her phone records, anything that could give me clues about what she was planning. I wanted to make sure she didn't try to come back or spin some other story. I needed to be prepared for whatever her next move was. I also reached out to a lawyer. I knew I had grounds for some serious legal action, especially considering her infidelity and the fact that she'd been hiding things from me for so long. I wasn't interested in fighting her in court, but I wanted to understand my rights and options. The lawyer told me that I could pursue a divorce, especially given the circumstances, and that I might also have grounds for some sort of financial settlement considering how much she'd lied and betrayed me. It was a lot to process, but I knew I had to protect myself. I never imagined I'd get to this point, but I couldn't see any way back from what she did. In the days that followed, I moved into the guest room. I wanted some space, some distance from the chaos of our marriage. I started focusing on myself, going to the gym, reconnecting with friends, and even talking to a counselor. I knew I needed help untangling the mess in my head, and I wasn't ashamed to ask for it. The hardest part wasn't just the betrayal, it was realizing I had to rebuild my life from scratch. I'd spent years thinking we had something real, something worth fighting for. Now, that illusion was shattered, and I had to accept that I might never look at her the same way again. Looking back, I realize how much this whole experience has changed me. I'm not the same man who blindly trusted and believed in happily ever after. I learned that people can lie so convincingly, so effortlessly, that sometimes you don't see the truth even when it's staring you in the face. But I also learned that I have strength I didn't know I had. I can survive this. I will survive this. And one way or another, I'll find a way to move forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Because at the end of the day, I have to do what's best for me, no matter how much it hurts. In the aftermath, everything feels different, but I've come to accept that some things can't be undone. Lisa's gone, and honestly, I don't miss her. Not because I don't love her, because I do, but because I finally see her for who she truly is. Someone willing to betray every vow we ever made. Someone who lied and cheated and thought she could get away with it. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's also a relief to finally face the truth. I keep thinking about all those years I trusted her, defended her, believed in us. Turns out that trust was misplaced, but I don't regret knowing the truth now. It's better to face it and move on than to keep living in a lie. I've also learned something about myself in this process. I'm not a fool. I'm not weak. I was naive, maybe, but I still have a sense of dignity that I refuse to let her or anyone else take away. I won't be a victim of this betrayal forever. I've started focusing on my kids, making sure they're okay, because they're innocent in all of this. I want to be the father they deserve, not some broken man who's been betrayed. I've also started dating again, cautiously. I don't trust easily anymore, but I know there are good people out there. I've realized that life is fragile and unpredictable, and sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. Looking back, I wish I could tell my past self to be more attentive, more cautious. But I also know that love, trust, and vulnerability are part of life. I don't regret opening my heart, even if it's been bruised badly. What I do regret is not seeing the warning signs earlier, not fighting harder to keep what I thought was solid. But I also understand that sometimes people reveal themselves in ways you never expected, ways that cut deep, ways that teach you hard lessons about who you can really trust. Now I focus on rebuilding, not just my life but my sense of self. I've learned that the world is messy, that people lie, and that sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most. But I've also learned that I can survive, that I can rise from the ashes of betrayal, and that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. This experience has left scars, sure, but it's also made me more aware, more cautious, more alive. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll face it on my own terms. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And most importantly, never let someone else's betrayal define you. You're more resilient than you think. Life will throw punches, but you get back up. That's what I intend to do. Because in the end, all you have is yourself, and sometimes that's enough to start over.